All right, everybody, welcome aboard here to the Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen here with you. Yes, it is time for the NFL Draft. It's tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're watching this video. We got a lot to discuss with regards to the Jets, the Giants, what they do. I mean, how this draft is going to play out is going to play out big within the first 10 picks, and both the Jets and Giants heavily involved with 2 picks each in the top 10. Of course, you also have the Deebo Samuel rumors. Lots of craziness. We're going to get into it now. I have a special guest joining me as well, Pete Callesano of the Bump and Run podcast, which is heard on Spotify. He is going to join us right now. Let's take a listen. All right, everybody, welcome here to the Sports Talk Nation, and joining me in this conversation is the one and only Pete Callesano of the Bump and Run podcast, which I believe is now on. You're on Apple, right?
Yep, we're on Apple iPod. Apple Podcast now. So Spotify, Google Podcasts, all that stuff. Yeah,
all that good stuff. And of course, he and Scott Bracey do a great job. If you want a show that really does a great job of delving into all the stuff around the draft and throughout the NFL calendar, that's the show you want to go to. Those guys are these 2 guys are fantastic.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
we try. We have some fun with it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So let's go into this, man. I mean, this is the craziest time of the year, and of course, gangrene is right in the middle of it. What else is new?
For sure.
With Deebo, let's start with the Deebo Samuel stuff, because this has been. I mean, this all started with Tyreek Hill, telling the Jets thanks but no thanks, and then go to Miami.
Right.
And it was like, well, it could be DK Metcalf, will it be AJ Brown. Now it's Deebo Samuel, and he wants out of San Francisco. To me, and I'm saying this applying the minority, because I know a lot of Jet fans online, they all want Deebo Samuel, or saying, okay, give up the 10th pick, give up the 2 second-round picks. I understand that, but man, you're Deebo Samuel, you want out on a team that is a championship contender. What's up with that? That's something's going on there that no one's really talking about with him.
Yeah, so 2 things about that. Number one, this really starts with Joe Douglas having traded Jamal Adams, which is the only reason we're even able to discuss this, because if we only had 1 first-round pick, like the number 4 pick, you're not even talking about making a trade for Deebo Samuel, because you're not trading that for him. I certainly don't think Joe Douglas would do that, and I don't think either one of us would do that. What's interesting about him, leaving San Francisco is the why, and why you probably wouldn't want to take him in a trade. He's not really thrilled with the fact that they kind of made him a hybrid running back. Well, the beauty of Deebo Samuel, and the thing that on our podcast we talked about how much we loved him, was the fact that he was so versatile and willing to do those kind of things. So you're like, hell yeah, I want a guy like that on my team, because he was probably their best running back, which is crazy. That's probably a scouting issue. They probably need to find a better running back that you wouldn't have to use one of your wide receivers. But to then turn around and say, I'm going to trade for that guy, but he doesn't want to do the things that make him so desirable, I agree with you. I'm not really on board for that. And then there was some rumors about, San Francisco wanted Elijah Moore in return. And for me, that's a hard no. I got a kid who's Deebo Samuel-like. He's a budding star if he can stay healthy. And he's cheap. He's not going to cost me 22, 25, 28 million a year. I don't know how much it'll be. So neither one of those is terribly attractive to me. I love the player, but I love what he's capable of doing overall, which is not what he wants to do anymore. So it kind of takes a little of the shine off the possibility.
Exactly. I mean, to me, he is as talented a player as there is in the league, but you run basically the same, literally the same offense San Francisco runs to the T.
For sure.
And you mentioned Elijah Moore, you have Braxton Berrios, you have Michael Carter. You're basically doing the same thing, where you're relying on a lot of speed. Yeah, Deebo Samuel would be great. If they found a way to get him, it would be top-notch offense. But I worry about long-term ramifications. Is he going to be happy here? Is it going to be another San Antonio Holmes thing where you get 1 or 2 good years out of him? He's like, you know what? I'm just going to get upset in Miami week 17, 18. I'm going to throw my quarterback under the bus and throw my team under the bus. Those are the kind of things you worry about with a guy like that.
Yeah, and then we on our show we get we get crap from people sometimes about the fact that we talk about the salary cap, but the reality is it has to be weighed. You have to measure the cost. You have to measure the cost in the trade itself. What do you have to give up? I think Miami went bananas. When you talk about Tyreek Hill, he's great, but don't forget Andy Reid isn't calling the plays, and Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing the ball down in Miami. So you can't expect the same production when it's not the same, family that's doing everything. And it's the same here. Like, you don't want to do the things you were doing there that made you so special. Let's be realistic too. If you look at Deebo Samuel's games, there's games where he gets one catch.
Yeah.
He's not, he's a very good receiver. He's a very good receiver, top 10 receiver probably in the league, but he's not, one of these guys that's a guaranteed 7-8 catches every game with at least one touchdown. He's not a Julio Jones in his prime or a CeeDee Lamb. He's not that right now. So yeah, for me, I just, for what I'm hearing is the asking price, it's probably a no for me. And knowing Joe Douglas, at least from what we've seen in the last 2.5 years, I can't imagine he's willing to go that far.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't expect it.
I wouldn't either. And this draft is so deep at wide receiver anyway. I mean, why would you not try to invest in one of those guys? You can get them on the cheap, and you can have them 4 or 5 years. And that's
the other thing is, if you're, I don't know, if you're Green Bay, or if you're, I'm trying to think of teams that are kind of close, if you're the Browns, if you're Kansas City, you're close. A guy like Deebo Samuel might be the kind of player that puts you over the top. The Jets have a lot of holes, and we'll get to that when we talk about, what they might take. One player like that is not going to solve all their problems, and it may cause more problems because it takes picks away, which is going to solve more of their problems. So that's why it's the cost of it at this particular time. Buffalo, they went and got Stephon Diggs, and they made a move for Von Miller. It's worth it for them because if you think there were 13 seconds, Von Miller in that 13 seconds against Kansas City might have made all the difference in the world. So for them, that investment is totally worth it. A Von Miller on the Jets is just, it doesn't make any sense because they're probably 2 or 3 years away from being an elite team at best. We're hoping. And a Von Miller at that point is no longer useful. So like you have to think in those kind of terms too.
Yeah, and that's the kind of move the Jets used to make. Like, oh, let's
exactly
sell the jerseys, get everyone excited, right. And it's like, oh well, what was that all about? I mean, we've been there with Le'Veon Bell. We can go on and on with different names we've seen come through.
GM talk is not exactly sexy talk, but the reality is, like, I'm actually excited that we have Joe Douglas because he's a very level-headed, smart guy who thinks up front first and move out from there. So I think he's made, this offseason, forget about the draft. This offseason has been nothing but smart moves. On our show, we talked about how, boy, of all the things the Jets really need was a tight end. Hey, why don't we just go get 2 of them? So never mind, the elite guard that they got that will fit perfectly in the running game and the play action passing game that they want to run. I'm thrilled with what they've done so far this season. So
yeah, they've done an outstanding job. And now going into this draft, all the rumors for a while were that they were going to maybe look at Kayvon Thibodeau at number 4. I mean, he may still end up dropping there. Lots about personality issues, but still a great player, but that's been talked about. Now I'm hearing that maybe they're thinking of, the cornerback is going to be fantastic, Sauce Gardner. And that's the guy that I think that they should target. But I also hear Jermaine Johnson's name thrown out there. I've heard the tackle from NC State thrown out there. So
Ike Ekwonu, or I think
Ekwonu or something like that. So let's go right at it. I mean, to me, like I just said, I would go for the corner. I mean, you're talking about if he falls to 4, you're talking about a guy who nobody in college could pass against. I understand he's not in a big conference. It was, the All-American Conference, wherever Cincinnati is. But yeah, everyone has had difficulty passing against this kid. A lot of people compare him to Revis. The Jets haven't had that kind of shutdown corner since Darrelle Revis. And again, good pass rush is always helped by your secondary, and that of course goes without saying.
So it's no fun having a show where we agree all the time, but on this one, I'm going to agree with you 100% because I just think this is a rare player. Yeah. Let's think about this for a second. Sauce Gardner never gave up a touchdown in his career. Okay, he has he's never given up a completion over 20 yards. Nick Saban in the championship game has said specifically. So if you don't want to believe us, take it from Nick Saban. We're not throwing near this guy. He literally said we chose not to throw anywhere near him. And the funny thing is the kid on the other side is probably going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. He's a very good corner also.
Yeah.
But Sauce Gardner is legit. He's all the way. There's another corner in this that's talked about in the top 10, Stingley Jr.
Yep.
I think is it right?
Derek Stingley.
I'm not there. Yeah, I'm not there with him. I would if Sauce Gardner was gone, I wouldn't take Stingley, like even with the 10th pick. Okay. But I think this kid is really special. And I agree with you 100%. This is a quarterback driven league. So number one, you have to have a quarterback, and then you have to protect your quarterback, and then you have to get after the quarterback, and then you have to stop the guys who the quarterback is throwing to. And this is one of those opportunities. I truly believe this. This is one of those opportunities where you can draft a guy who will shut down one side of the field. And that is huge. That just opens up opportunities for blitz packages. It gives the defensive coordinator so many more options on what he can do up front along the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it just changes the game. Now, if they don't go that route, and let's say they go with Thibodeau or they go with Johnson or even Walker, if he drops that far, I'm hearing he could go number 1 to Jacksonville. That's the latest rumor. You never know.
I know. It is always moving around.
Always moving around. I mean, Thibodeau's a good player. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. I mean, you're getting an edge rusher. He's like 6'5". He's got a lot of speed off the edge, can play well in coverage. Everything I read early last week was that he met with the Jets, had good conversations. They like his attitude, even though the Giants don't apparently. But yeah, that's what but what are your thoughts about him coming out of college?
Okay, so I have a handful of players that I'm like beware of. Yeah. And I got to be honest, he's one of them that I'm just kind of like beware of. And it's for a couple of reasons. I never like hearing rumors about guys who like you're questioning whether or not they love the sport, they love playing, I don't know how much of that is real, how much of it isn't real, but I don't like hearing that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? How dedicated is he? And here's why I don't like hearing it. I don't think it just like ends a player's ability. This league is really hard. Like it's really hard to be good, and never mind to be like a superstar defensive end or outside line, rushed end. It's hard. So if you're not only just 100% committed, but like all the way, like this is who I am, this is what I do committed, it's hard enough already. We don't want things that make it harder on you. You know what I mean? So that's what scares me. Number two thing that scares me is he played in the Pac-12. So I don't know. I know there are actually some decent offensive linemen in the Pac-12. You often get some decent offensive tackles because you get a lot of passing in the Pac-12. But it also just bothers me because the league itself, the conference itself, wasn't great, hasn't been for a little while. Maybe it'll improve this year with USC upgrading at the coaching position. And then third, we could have had like one really nice opportunity to see him play against like real high level competition at Ohio State, and he was injured and didn't play. Not his fault. I don't blame the kid. But we didn't get to see him play. And it just gives me questions. It just causes me to pause. So that's when I say like, okay, he's an option. Sure. If Sauce Gardner's there, that's an option. There are other guys at defensive end, outside linebacker, maybe later, is a wide receiver on the board. So it's the number 4 pick. At the 10 pick, you can almost make that mistake, but you can't make that mistake at the 4 pick. That's the thing. That 4 pick, those top 5 picks, man, those got to be guarantees. Those got to be starters. Like those got to be guys that people are buying jerseys for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Jameson Williams. I know he tore the ACL at the end of the season for Alabama. He's the one guy that's like the real high speed guy, sub 4.40, very productive. Again, I don't know about that 4 pick. I'm kind of leaning on Sauce Gardner. I'm going to ask you a question here.
Sure.
The rumors that I'm hearing the last couple of days, and it's being said that the Jets organization is putting this out there, which they don't normally do, so I don't know how much we can believe it, is that they're really down on Mekhi Becton, and there's a possibility of them moving off of him. If that's true in any way, shape, or form, then one of these tackles, whether it's Ike Ekwonu or the kid Neal out of Alabama, becomes more of an option at that point. I don't know. I can't believe that they're going to give up on him so quickly. Yeah. Because when he has played, he's played pretty darn well. He's looked like a starting left tackle in the NFL.
Boy, that's tough. I mean, wasn't there discussion after free agency that they were going to move him to right tackle instead?
Yes.
There was that talk.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really down on him, and apparently he didn't show up for, I guess it was voluntary workouts or whatever it was last week. So,
right. Listen, he was supposed to be out on a 4-week injury. It turned into the rest of the season injury. That didn't help.
No.
But I just, it's hard to believe they're going to give up on him that quickly. That's all. I'm not there. I don't see practice every day. I don't know what goes on with the, with the trainer, and his weight has been an issue. He's upwards near 370, 380 pounds. He's 6'8". Like, he's huge. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm just, if that's where they're going, which I'd be a little surprised, then one of those tackles becomes a real option at number 4.
It does. I just feel that the talent on the defensive side and their need for defense is so.
I agree.
And it's so important. Like, you can't miss on it. Like you said, it's a top 5 pick. You can't miss on it. You're going to take it. And if they take a tackle, the reaction from the fan base is going to be like, another tackle. Like,
yeah, I get that. But here, let me say this.
Yeah.
We have to find out this year and no later than next year whether or not Zach Wilson is the real deal. We have to find that out. So we need to surround him. We need to protect him and surround him with talent. And you're not going to be a championship team in the next year or two anyway, most likely. So we can build that as we go. You have to find out, because if you still have questions come at the end of next year, you're going to have to move in a different direction. So that's my only thing with, like, if you really are off Mekhi Becton, which I genuinely can't believe, but if they are, then you can't just not fill the position and hope like some free agent comes up, or if third or fourth. You need to do that immediately.
No, and now you got a question mark with George Fond, who's coming off of injury. He's kind of old now, so yeah. I mean, it does. The need is there. I just don't know how far down the rabbit hole of anger and frustration they are really with Mekhi Becton. I think that's the big question now.
And what upsets me about it is it takes away from these others, like you're saying, these other spots that you could fill with these 2 top 10 picks. Yeah. It's so rare that you get that. It's not a good thing because it means you stink, but you want to get starters in fresh positions where you've needed them, not to kind of. He's only second year. He only was in his second year. That's what bothers me. I hope that's not the case. I genuinely hope that's not the case. So,
I hope it's just rumors just to drive up an asking price or something like that.
I was thinking the same thing.
I could think of.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I was hoping the same thing, I guess, more than thinking it.
Same thing happened a few years ago with the Darnold pick, where they said, "Oh, well, you know what? We traded up to 3. Now, you know what? We're thinking trading down again. We don't know."
Right.
They did the same thing then. So who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. But Jameson Williams, for me, I would have, if it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I would have said somebody's going to be able to steal him at 10. I think the Jets could have stolen him at 10 because of the ACL. And maybe that's still the case. I'm sure there's teams that'll kind of pull back off of him because he tore that ACL, and he probably won't be available to start the season. So that'll turn some teams off. I don't know that I would take him with the 4 pick, but man, I'd have a really, really hard time passing up on him at 10 if he was available.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of speed. His size isn't bad, 6'2". You can't sneeze at that. I mean, I'm talking about small receivers, but
super productive too.
Productive, can break containment. I mean, you can't. It's hard to find those guys.
It's hard. And then at that point, Zach Wilson or any of the defenders like me, can never say again, oh, he doesn't have the weapons. Well, no. You now have someone at every position. You got Michael Carter at running back. You have legitimate wide receivers all over the place, and you have 2 legitimate tight ends. I don't want to hear any more. If they were to make that move, and even if they don't, with the acquisitions of the tight ends, I don't want to hear any. You have Corey Davis coming off injury, healthy. You have weapons on this team. We can't hear that anymore. Protect the kid, and let's find out what he's capable of doing.
Exactly. And the other name out there that I heard you guys talking about the other day, and a lot of people love this guy a couple weeks ago, was Drake London. Now. He had, of course, he's coming off his own issues with his own leg injuries. He didn't run his 40 time in his pro day.
Right.
And it really is scaring a lot of teams right now. And a lot of people had him a couple weeks ago at 10 to the Jets. I don't know if I mean, these mock drafts change every 5 minutes. I'm sure it's dropping a little bit, but man, I was on the Drake London ship for a while because thinking, wow, 6'5", you don't really find those tall, lanky receivers very often. But now I'm like, I don't know. Jameson Williams sounds pretty damn good. So that's I'm kind of fluctuating between the two of them right now.
Yeah, you had made a comment on our YouTube channel with the podcast that we put on there, like interesting take. And I was with you. I was like, I love this kid. Like, he's big, strong, like, pretty good yards after the catch because he's physical, big target, which is great. This is why you wanted a tight end for Zach Wilson, young quarterback, tight end, over the middle, big target, big, easy catch radius, all that kind of stuff. And that's the thing, that was the positive twist on Drake London, is that it's a big target for a young quarterback, big catch radius. So quarterback doesn't have to be perfect. And it's like, okay, that sounds good in college at USC. And what I had said was, just show me the guy in the league that is big and slow and successful. I look at teams that have been explosive. Do you see any kind of Drake London player on the Rams? Do you see any kind of Drake London player on San Francisco, on Green Bay, on Kansas City? Like, you don't see that. You see them trading for the Tyreek Hills, like these fast, super fast guys, speed, getting you open and gone.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, before we got only a few minutes, very quickly, I mean, the Giants could have a big effect on what the Jets do because they're, what the Jets pick at 4, the Giants are next. And then before
Correct.
the Jets pick again at 10, they're the Giants at 7. So, and they have a lot of similar needs to the Jets, wide receiver, corner, defensive end.
Edge defender,
They could end up taking somebody the Jets want. Let's just say Jameson Williams is there at going into 7, saying, "Oh man, if the Giants pass them, we're going to get him at 10." The Giants select Jameson Williams. There it goes. So,
which some people might think would be crazy because they have a lot of receivers, but they were already shopping the kid from that they drafted from Darius Toney from Florida. So you just never know. And obviously, we can talk about these things. Mock drafts never go the way anyone says they're going to go. So they're all just a total waste of time. And you don't know because, one strange pick throws everybody into a tizzy because it's like, oh my God, now this guy's available. And, I remember with you just mentioned Sam Darnold, it was crazy that the Giants didn't, they took Saquon Barkley instead of Sam Darnold. And I'm like, how did this happen? How did Sam Darnold fall to us? In the end, it didn't work out.
It didn't work out for either one.
It didn't work out, but I was excited and you just never know. So you just have, obviously Joe Douglas and his people, they have their board ready to go and they'll be able to make moves on the fly. And that's just, that's the nature of the draft, but
boy, I mean,
we shall see.
We shall see. Think back at that 2018 draft. I mean, but yeah, you look at that top of that draft now, it's like, oh my God, what a mess.
It really was. And this is what's funny. People call this like a bad quarterback draft, but that one was supposed to be great. Meanwhile, there are, I think, 5 guys taken in the first round, and only 2 of them have turned out, Josh Allen, great. Lamar Jackson, really, really good. Josh Rosen. There's a bunch of pretty bad ones in that loop there, so Baker Mayfield, Baker Mayfield can't even find a home right now. Josh Rosen isn't even in the league, I don't think.
Pete, this is awesome, man. This is the best. It's like Christmas right now.
It doesn't get any better. As Jets fans, we often start thinking about the draft in September or October. So it's the best part of the year is finally here.
Exactly.
Who's gonna save the Jets?
Who's it going to be this time? And then
That's it. Yeah. We can hope.
Oh, man. All right. Awesome stuff, man.
Thanks, Mike.